Raging inferno as Lagos pipeline explodes, causing pandemonium in suburban community. Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria calls for arrest and prosecution of Senator Elisha Abo following his assault on a nursing mother in an Abuja sex toy shop. In international news, Russia and 9 non-OPEC producers agreed to 9-month production cutback plan. And in sport, Nigeria missed sport in CAF's Best 11 list published on Wednesday.
This is ANN News.
I am Olajumoke Olatunji. It appears that stories of explosions, tanker fires, herdsmen attacks, and others are becoming a routine to which many Nigerians may be developing a thick skin. Well, these are those stories today. A pipeline in Lagos has exploded and caused an inferno along Ijegun axis of Satellite Town. The explosion happened when suspected hoodlums vandalized Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation pipelines. The incident caused pandemonium as many scampered for safety. Some persons are feared dead and many others injured. It was reported that some of the hoodlums were roasted in the explosion. Eyewitnesses say movement was restricted in the area as a result of the incident as the inferno engulfed a large part of the area. National Emergency Management Agency and the Lagos State Fire Service responded to the incident. They confirmed the vandals were responsible for the incident and that some of them died in the inferno. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed dissatisfaction over his administration's performance in the power sector. He says it is not good enough. The president said more efforts are needed from electricity distribution companies to meet the needed resources and technical expertise in the sector. He then promised that his government would do the needful to improve electricity transmission. President Buhari made the statement on Wednesday when he received the Oba of Benin, Omonoba Noedoe Ware II, and members of the Edo Council of Traditional Rulers and Chiefs who have visited him at the presidential villa. The Benin monarch had asked the president to do something on the poor power supply situation in Edo State, which he described as a pathetic situation. The president has asked the nation to be patient as his government was building infrastructure. He then praised his royal visitors for their combined efforts in the area of human trafficking and rehabilitation of victims who have returned home. Human Rights Writers Association of Nigeria has called for the arrest and prosecution of Senator Elisha Abo, representing Adamawa North, following his assault on a nursing mother and shop attendant at an Abuja sex toy shop. The rights group also commended the People's Democratic Party for coming out against the misconduct of a senator elected on a platform. Huriwa also advised the media to be professional in its coverage and not to disclose the senator's private health status. The group said in a statement that the thorough, transparent, open investigation and prosecution of the senator before the competent court of law, in line with Section 6 of the Nigerian Constitution, would let every Nigerian know that nobody is above the law. The right group also says the victim of Abo's unprovoked attacks must be adequately protected and granted legal remedies for those violations. There has been a social media offensive against the beleaguered senator, who has released a statement on Wednesday apologizing for his actions and asking for forgiveness and mercy. In that apology, he specifically appealed to the nursing mother he assaulted to forgive him. A 2014 report released by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, stated that 1 out of every 5 Nigerian children is out of school. In their documents, Nigeria was said to have the highest rate of school dropouts in the world at the time, with an estimated 10.5 million children out of school. The number hasn't changed much since then, and experts are now urging more government efforts to tackle the plight of those dropout children. Philly has a report of this great national embarrassment for a country that has the largest economy on the African continent.
10-year-old Adamu Abubakar and his other peers are trying to get this car back on the road. They are apprentices at this roadside automobile workshop in Abuja.
I dropped out of school because my parents could not pay my fees, so they brought me here to learn how to fix cars.
Just like Abubakar, millions of Nigerian children who are not in school are out on the streets each day trying to make ends meet. They're also vulnerable to other risks like abuse, kidnapping, and crime. The United Nations says over 10.5 million children are out of school in Nigeria, the most in the world. At least 8 million of them are in the northern part of the country. Many of these children have either stopped going to school or have not attended at all. This is as a result of various factors including social, cultural and religious beliefs that discourage attendance in formal education.
When you go to most of the government schools that have been provided for the children, they are not attractive enough for children. Even parents, some of them are farmers. They rather use them on the farm than send them to school for their own selfish reasons, because the children help them to do their work.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari in January 2017 introduced a meals program for schools in some parts of the country to make going to school attractive. However, experts say the problem is beyond feeding.
Feeding cannot attract a child to school. Among we educators, we have heard that in the north, some children just go to school, collect the food and go back home. That is because they don't understand the importance of education. What the government needs to address is their mindset. They need to give them a new orientation on the importance of education, that they are the future of tomorrow.
With Nigeria's population growing at a rapid rate of 2.3% annually, there is need for an urgent intervention in dealing with the issue of out-of-school children. But until then, the likes of Abubakar will have to hold on to their tools rather than books to make something of their life.
The federal government has begun interrogation of those implicated in the alleged fraud that left more than 65,000 Nigerian shareholders losing $2 billion worth of shares. News Agency of Nigeria reports those invited for interrogation were former Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udo Doma, and his counterpart in the Ministry of Trade and Investment, Okechukwu Enename. Chukwemeka Obasi, legal representative of a whistleblower, told journalists in Abuja on Wednesday the General Managing Director of Union Bank, Emeka Emua, was also questioned. He also said various representatives of all private and public institutions linked with the fraud were also invited and quizzed. Obasi said the establishments mentioned in the petition included the Chapel Hill National Security Exchange Commission, and the Central Bank of Nigeria. The interrogation hinged on the petition reporting the alleged fraud to the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, in April. The petition pointed to former Central Bank Governor, now Emir of Kano, Alhaji Sanusi Lamido Sanusi II, under whose watch the alleged $2 billion fraud happened. The two former ministers were also implicated in the petition. Coming up, African segment. UN envoy says airstrike on Libyan detention center could be war crime. And later, international news. Russia and 9 non-OPEC producers agreed to 9-month production cutback plan.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to African stories. Human Rights Watch had said on Wednesday police in Kenya have killed no fewer than 21 men and boys in Nairobi's low-income areas, claiming they were criminals. The group says there is no justification for the extrajudicial killings. The group says this executions points to a broader problem of police using excessive, unlawful force in the name of maintaining law and order in Nairobi's informal settlements. The right group says law enforcement officials fail to comply with the law in ensuring all police killings are reported, investigated, and that those responsible for unlawful killings are prosecuted. Human Rights Watch says it has found that since August last year, police have unlawfully shot dead at least 21 men and boys whom they were alleged were criminals in Nairobi's Dandora and Mathare neighborhoods alone. Rights activists in those areas believe that based on the cases they know about and those reported in the media, police have unlawfully killed many more in the past year. Under Kenyan and international law, the police should only internationally use lethal force when it is strictly unavoidable to protect life. The United Nations envoy to Libya says the airstrikes on a migrant detention center outside Libya's capital that killed at least 40 persons could be a war crime. Ghazan Salama said in a statement Wednesday the strikes in which innocent persons were killed by surprise clearly could constitute a war crime. He said these were innocent people whose dire conditions forced them to be in that shelter. The United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees and African Union have also condemned airstrikes, which wounded more than 130 persons. Libyan health officials said in addition to those killed in the airstrikes late Tuesday, another 80 were wounded. UN High Commission for Refugees Filippo Grandi said in the aftermath of the attacks that civilians must not be targets, the migrants and refugees should not be detained, and that Libya is not a safe place to return. Rescued migrants who are trying to get to Europe by making the dangerous crossing of the Mediterranean Sea. Grandi called on those countries with influence on the parties involved in Libya's conflict to work together to end the fighting. A government ban on the exportation of certain Ghanaian vegetables is taking a toll on some Ghanaian farmers. The government says some of the vegetables were found to have contained some parasites. It also says some underhanded behavior has been found in some of the exporters. Nabil Ahmed Rafai reports.
The 5 ad growers outside.
He's grown the produce. Now, Benjamin Agbesi hopes to grow his business by participating in this year's Fruits and Vegetables Fair in Accra. In June, the government banned the export of all leafy vegetables and some selected groups of chili peppers and cucumbers because of what it says are unhealthy practices by exporters.
For that 1.5 months now, because of the suspension, I'm not exporting. Based on that, I'm losing $40,000.
The government put the ban in place after some vegetables produced in Ghana were found to contain harmful organisms, a variety of pests. The government banned the export of selected vegetables in order to preempt what could have been a blanket ban by the European Union on all vegetable exports from Ghana. Benjamin Agbesi is among the many farmers here who are against the vegetable exports ban. He says penalizing exporters who don't comply with health regulations would be a better option. So far, the government has not introduced any programs to help farmers tackle the situation, but officials say they are monitoring the situation closely.
Our aim is to ensure that we meet the international standard in all products or produce that we send outside this country, so that we will not have any problem when we send the goods outside. And we want to ensure to support and help all the farmers or the exporters develop their capacity so that we will not leave them behind.
And while they wait out the ban, organizers of this fair are encouraging local farmers to network with suppliers across the country.
When they come, they're able to link up with a lot of businesses, they're able to make connections, their clientele base expands, and it helps their businesses grow.
Ghana lost $30 million following a previous ban on vegetable exports into the European Union from 2014 to 2017. Like many of the exhibitors here, Benjamin Agbesi hopes the current ban will be lifted soon so he can limit his losses and grow his business.
Uganda and Sierra Leone have agreed to cooperate more in the areas of trade and defense. Leaders of both countries met in Uganda, and reporter Isabel Nakaria covered the meeting.
Sierra Leone and Uganda are looking into improving trade by opening a possible route by water and train to link the two countries. Both countries have sizable iron ore deposits and want to explore ways to improve their mineral development.
A cheap transport way across the belt of Africa, which links the Indian Ocean to the Atlantic. And then you continue by water to West Africa. So this is something that we shall have to discuss more with the Congo, with Brazzaville, and with West Africa.
The two countries have also agreed to build capacity in military training and strengthen peace and security.
So we are here to learn and to share the little that we have that you may need. But I know that you have done a great lot to bring peace and tranquility, which is the ecosystem needed for development. And indeed, you have registered development in this country.
Presidents Bio and Museveni have urged Sudan's military council to resume dialogue and restore peace.
When we return, international stories. Russia and 9 non-OPEC producers agreed to 9-month production cutback plan. And later, sport. Nigeria missed sport in CAF's Best 11 list published on Wednesday.
You are watching ANN.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now to international stories. The National Hurriyet newspaper in Turkey has quoted President Recep Tayyip Erdogan that it would be robbery for the United States to deny Turkey the F-35 fighter jet it has purchased. Turkey faces potential U.S. sanctions over its acquisition of Russian S-400 missile system. He said that Turkey had so far paid $1.5 billion for the F-35 and the 4 jets had been handed over, with Turkish pilots going to the U.S. for training. The planes are currently in the U.S. and some of the training the Turkish pilots were offered has been halted because of the strain between the two countries. Russia and 9 other non-OPEC producers have agreed to a 9-month rollover of oil supply cuts on Tuesday, ratifying a policy designed to prop up crude prices amid a weakening global economy. It comes fewer than 24 hours after energy ministers from the world's most powerful oil producer nations trashed out a deal to restrict the amount of crude flowing into the global market. OPEC reached a deal on Monday to extend production cuts until March next year, and reporter Natalie Comey has the details.
The world's largest oil producers to extend production cuts until March of 2020 came as no surprise. The energy alliance between OPEC and non-OPEC partners has been slashing output since 2017. Last January, OPEC agreed to reduce output for 6 months by 1.2 million barrels a day. The extension into next year aims to keep crude prices high amid a sluggish global economy and surging production from the U.S. Expanding stockpiles of U.S. crude is contributing to a potential glut.
The whole purpose of this cut agreement is to bring down the inventories to the 5-year average. However, if we look at the OPEC numbers, the increase in the non-OPEC supply next year will be around 2.14 million barrels per day, and the outlook for demand is still uncertain.
Also significant was the signing of the long-term cooperation charter. In effect, this confirms the commitment of all OPEC and non-OPEC partner countries, such as Russia. The last extension expired on June 30th, so the new one is set to take effect immediately.
Russia, along with the other members of the OPEC Plus nations, will next meet in Abu Dhabi at the World Energy Congress in September, while OPEC member nations will next sit down with each other in December to review the implementation of this latest round of oil production cuts.
Breast cancer is not a topic to take lightly as it threatens women around the world. A young researcher who saw his mother suffer greatly from this deadly condition decided to do something about it in Mexico. Alexia Beverstock reports from Mexico City on a smart bra that has been designed for the detection of breast cancer.
Julian Rios grew up in the shadow of cancer. He was just a small boy when his mother was first diagnosed with breast cancer. It would come back with a vengeance when he was about 15.
And my mom had access to the best medical services in the world. She was treating herself in Houston, Texas. And despite all of that, she was diagnosed at a very late stage, stage 3 cancer diagnosis. I thought to myself, well, if that was the case for a woman with high acquisitive power, with private insurance, and more importantly, a preventive mindset, what would be the case for the rest of women in Mexico or the rest of women in the world? It wouldn't be a mastectomy like happened to my mom, which is an amputation of both of your breasts. It would have been a death sentence.
So Julian, the teenager, sought a solution, even dropping out of university to pursue his passion, and now, at age 20, has won $5 million in funding to develop his idea, a smart bra designed to detect early signs of breast cancer. It's designed around the biology of breast cancer, worldwide the most common form of the disease among women, with more than 2 million new cases diagnosed last year. Equipped with 184 individual sensors, the smart bra creates a thermal map of a mammary gland, identifying points of heat to offer hints as to what might be going on inside. A complete scan takes 5 minutes, and it's recommended women run the diagnostics once a week. When it comes to breast cancer detection, health officials agree that there's really no substitute for mammography screenings, but home kits like this could be an important tool and enable women themselves to flag early signs of the disease. Julian's smart bra has been cleared for sale throughout Latin America beginning this fall, priced at about $300. He's hoping to wrap up clinical trials in the United States and win government approval to market the bra there by the end of the year. Dr. Dante Carvajal is an oncologist in Mexico City and says while it's a good idea, more research is required.
There is certainly logic behind the theory of this device, but I must say, I have my doubts. These diseases start at microscopic levels, and detection can be almost impossible. I hope it works, but before we get excited, clinical studies and official recognition from medical institutions will be essential.
As his technology is employed against cancer, Julian says millions of lives stand to benefit.
I think we have a high chance of changing the world by empowering women to own their health.
Up next, sport. Nigeria missed sport in CAF's Best 11 list published on Wednesday. Please stay with us.
You are watching ANN.
Whether in your house, at your office, on your phone or online, we are there. We have the facts behind the headlines. We cut to the chase with the news you really need. We cover every angle. We are the bigger, better news network. We are African News Network. ANN. Watch ANN News on MITV from a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News and Sports. The Confederation of African Football did not include any Nigerian player in its best 11 from the group stages of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. The list published on Wednesday includes 4 Egyptian players led by Liverpool winger Mohamed Salah. The selection across the teams reveals the best 11 players so far and another 8 in the reserve list. Fortune has once again smiled on Nigerian table tennis legend Aruna Quadri. In the July ranking released by the International Table Tennis Federation on Tuesday, the African champion gained 2 steps up to the rating ladder to be 21st in the world. Quadri, who was ranked 23rd in June, gained some points following his outing at the ITTF World Tour China Open, where he defied the odds to make it to the second round and to be enlisted among the top seeds. Quadri remains the only African player in the top 50 in the world. The Oyo State-born athlete is present in Busan, South Korea for the Korea Open. He's expected to start his campaign for the main draw of the men's singles on Thursday. And good luck to him. That is ANN News this evening. Thank you for joining us. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Olajumoke Olatunji. Have a pleasant evening.